Today I am joined by Acting Chief of the Reading Police, Javi Ruiz, Captain Cheryl Penthony of the Reading Police Department, and Assistant District Attorney Katie Lehman of the Berks County District Attorney's Office. I am very pleased to be here today. We also have some members of the Baver family with us today, and very pleased to share with you that today we are announcing the solving of a cold case from 2001. Cynthia Baver was murdered sometime between April 7th, 2001 and April 8th, 2001, 22 years ago, a long time ago. Cynthia Baver was 46 years old when she was killed. And despite the fact that there was a lot of what I consider forensic evidence, the case was not solved. And when I talk about forensic evidence, I mean there was blood evidence. There was other evidence that was found. So the case went cold. A few years ago, though, Cynthia Baver's father, who's in his 90s and still with us today, he's not here today, but I know he would like to be here today. He contacted criminal investigator Daniel Cedeno of the Reading Police Department and asked if he would look into the unsolved death of his daughter. And criminal investigator Cedeno and Mr. Baver knew each other, and CI Cedeno decided it was time to take a look at this case. So the case was reopened in 2021, and this investigation began in earnest. The facts of this case are, as I had said, in April 8th of 2001, the Reading Police were dispatched to a 3-story row home at 1142 North 10th Street. There was a report of an unconscious female with wounds on her body. Responding officers learned that the female had been discovered at the residence by concerned neighbors. Officers arrived on location, entered the living room, and observed the body of a female identified as Cynthia Lea Baver on the living room floor. Cynthia was laying on her side and wearing a blood-stained shirt that concealed stab wounds on the torso of her body. A black cord was found around her neck, and injuries to her head were observed. Near Cynthia's body, officers observed a purse and contents typically found in a purse. The scene was processed by criminal investigators and officers with the Reading Police. A canvass took place of the area. Suspected human bloodstains in the breezeway were found between 1144 and 1146 North 10th Street. In the living room, criminal investigators observed suspected blood smears on several household items and on the walls. In the second floor front bedroom, criminal investigators observed a leaking waterbed, a pair of scissors near the bed. They observed a dresser with the top drawer open and a jewelry box on the floor. On the banister of the stairs, between the second and third floor, investigators observed suspected human bloodstains. On the third floor, investigators observed shattered glass and suspected human bloodstains on a window that led into the rear roof of the residence. The roof directly outside of this third floor window connected Cynthia's residence with the residence of 1144 North 10th Street. On the roof, investigators found the screen to the third floor window. The screen had been placed directly next to the window where the suspected entry into Cynthia's residence had been made. First floor kitchen area, investigators discovered human bloodstains on the floors and walls. Suspected human bloodstains were also observed on the doorknob of a door that led to the rear of the residence. Needless to say, there was a lot of evidence. Reading police collected samples of the suspected bloodstains from several items at the scene. These samples, along with a known DNA sample from the victim, were sent to the Pennsylvania State Police Lab. On April 9th, an autopsy was conducted at the Reading Hospital by Dr. Neil Hoffman. During the autopsy, it was discovered that Cynthia suffered fractures to her forehead. There were ligature marks on her neck, and there were stab wounds to the right side of her chest. It was determined that she died, and it was a homicide due to the stab wounds of the heart, lungs, aorta, and liver. In 2001, a report from the Pennsylvania State Police Lab was received. In the report, it was confirmed that the bloodstain samples collected at the scene from a video case and from the banister on the stairs that led from the second floor to the third floor did not belong to Cynthia. They were someone else's. The report indicated that both bloodstains, and they were able to find DNA profiles belonging to the same person, those bloodstains. The DNA profile developed from testing was then loaded into the CODIS, which is our national DNA, I'll call it our repository. But for years, despite the fact that it was uploaded into CODIS, it went, nothing happened. It went cold. That DNA profile was unable to be identified. In April 2021, the investigation was reopened. Now, during this whole time, that DNA was in the CODIS system, but there was never a hit. The investigation was reopened. The blood evidence from the video case was taken to the State Bureau of Forensic Services, Pennsylvania State Police, to verify if there was sufficient DNA material available to conduct forensic genealogy testing. In September of 2022, the Pennsylvania State Bureau of Forensic Services revealed that there was sufficient DNA material producing a DNA profile of an unidentified male. On January 18, 2023, the DNA profile obtained from the video case, and that is the same profile as the blood on the banister, was sent to Bode Technology. Bode Technology is based in Virginia. They are a forensic genealogy company, and we have used them in the past and will continue to use them in the future. Bode Technology provided investigators with a report revealing that the contributor of the DNA profile was a person of African descent and had genealogical ties to Suffolk, Virginia. Kind of amazing. They knew where this person was from. Through investigation, criminal investigator Cedeno discovered that a male fitting both the genealogical and geographical descriptions by Bode Technology lived right next door to Cynthia Baver at 1144 North 10th Street. How ironic. That male was identified as the defendant, Timothy Bernard. Date of birth, 9/26/61. He would be 62 years of age. On September 18th, 2023, criminal investigator Cedeno conducted an interview with Bernard. Bernard's wife, Lisa Bernard, was also present during that interview. And during that interview, Bernard informed criminal investigator Cedeno that he was, in fact, from Suffolk, Virginia. He admitted and was shown a photograph of 1144 North 10th Street, and he reported to reside at that location on the second floor, and that he had access to the third floor when he lived at that residence. Bernard told investigators that he had met Cynthia on several occasions. He told investigators that on the night Cynthia was killed, he heard noises through the walls of Cynthia's residence, and that he knocked on her first floor window to complain to Cynthia about the noise, and then went back into his residence. Bernard said that later he encountered an officer as he exited the residence when he was going to work, and he was asked to speak to that officer, but he chose not to and left for work. Later in the interview, that same interview, criminal investigator Cedeno requested, and the defendant consented to providing a DNA sample, and a buccal swab sample was taken. That buccal swab was sent to the Pennsylvania State Police Laboratory, and on Thursday, November 9th, investigators received confirmation from the Pennsylvania State Police that that DNA profile that was found on the tape and also on the banister matched the DNA profile obtained from the video case and the banister in Cynthia's residence. And that was a match to Timothy Bernard. Thus, we are here to announce that we have arrested Mr. Bernard, Timothy Bethwell Bernard, for the murder of Cynthia Baver. And it was through the tenacity of the Reading Police Department and criminal investigator Cedeno that they requested the funding to do forensic genealogy DNA testing. I provided that funding, and it led to the match that was proven that it was the next door neighbor. Timothy Bernard was the source of blood found on Baver's banister and video case. It was somewhat of a bloody crime scene, and the DNA evidence obtained directly connects Bernard to the crime scene. As a result, we have charged Timothy Bernard with first-degree murder, third-degree murder, burglary, and aggravated assault. Mr. Bernard is now in Berks County Jail without bail, and he will be facing these charges as we move forward. I want to thank again the Reading Police Department for their dedication and tenacity to solve this horrific homicide. This technology has brought new life to solving old cases. We are hopeful to continue to utilize this technology moving forward on other cold cases that have the evidentiary components to take advantage of this technology. This is the second cold case in Berks County that has been solved with the assistance of DNA genealogical technology. We're hoping there will be others. But despite 22 years, justice will not now be sought for the death of Cynthia Baver, and hopefully we can bring some closure to this family. Thank you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add?
You said it all.
We'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
So, in the affidavit and what you were saying is officers did approach that neighbor 22 years ago to do an interview with him, and he walked away. Was there any follow-up with him back then?
You know, I am not 100% certain what the follow-up was. I am certain that there was follow-up, but there was never probable cause established to be able to obtain a buccal swab. That I am certain of. It was only through this new technology that we were able to, through this new technology, that we were able to establish that probable cause. And we did obtain a search warrant for that buccal swab also. He consented, but we also have followed that up with a search warrant to obtain the same buccal swab. So the solving of this case was completely based on that DNA genealogy hit. And how ironic that the person that fit the criteria lived next door.
Motive? It says in the affidavit he was buying drugs. But
Yeah, but I don't think that we don't know of a motive, really. That's a great question. That is something that we don't know. We don't know what the motive was. Clearly, he broke into the home. That I think we're rather certain of. He wasn't let in. He broke in. And there was evidence of that. But as for a motive, I do not believe that we really will ever be able to establish that.
And I'm assuming, even though the DNA was entered into your CODIS system, it wasn't found because he did not commit any felonies prior.
Correct. His DNA is not in CODIS. That is correct.
Does he have, how long was he living in Reading? Do you know?
I don't know that. I know he's been there. He's since this incident, he's been in the Berks County area. We do know that. I don't know how long he was living in Reading before that.
He was unclear.
What?
He was unclear during that.
Yeah.
So you don't know if he's committed any crimes in Virginia then?
Well, I'm going to say this. If he did, they weren't of the nature that his DNA would have been extracted, the blood would have been taken from him and he would have been put into CODIS. I'm not aware that he has any criminal history.
Do you know where he worked at the time of the homicide?
He worked for a private contractor.
Yeah, private.
Because I wasn't sure if his job required him to enter fingerprints.
No. He worked. Yeah, he worked for a private contractor. Yeah, no. And our laws have evolved over time as to what crimes permit a blood sample being taken for DNA purposes. And every state's laws are somewhat different in that respect. I'm not familiar with Virginia's laws on that subject.
To be clear, was it believed that he broke in through that window that connected the two homes?
Yes, I think we do believe that he did, yes. But again, the evidence from that window did not indicate that he was the perpetrator.
Were there fingerprints, I'm assuming fingerprints found or taken?
There were some fingerprints taken. I don't believe that his fingerprints were found. This is one of those cases where there was forensic evidence. There's many crime scenes where there's little, if none, forensic evidence. But, again, just because you find something such as blood, you're not going to know if that person's not in the system. It's going to be hard, absent other evidence, to establish who that evidence is from. Here, this technology broke this case.
Any idea what Bernard's been up to for the past 22 years? It looks like his address is still in Reading, correct?
He lives in the Reading area, has lived in the Reading area. I am not familiar with what he's been doing for this length of time. We do know that he's had some health issues, but that's the extent of our knowledge of what of his recent past.
Any response, oh, sorry, go ahead.
But
I'm sorry, any response from his wife? Does he have children?
he has a wife. I'm not aware of any children, but I do know that he has a wife.
And Cynthia, she lived alone.
Yes.
Was she married? Any children?
I'm not familiar. I do not believe that she was married, and do not believe she had any children. But she does have a loving family.
You know, to bring closure to these people after 22 years who have been wondering all this time what happened to their loved ones, what does that mean to you in your office?
I think it's a great accomplishment by all of us. I hate to say all of us, but the Reading Police did the great job. And, you know, I want to use this technology in any other cases where this evidence exists, because we need to get perpetrators of violent crime off of our streets and bring closure to victims' family. And this case is a testament to the advances in science that we have seen. I'm not a scientist, but I am kind of overwhelmed that this DNA profile put this individual in Suffolk, Virginia. And then, how ironic, that was the next door neighbor. Just really kind of blows my mind how far we have come. I hate to date myself. When I first came into this business, DNA didn't exist. I know I look much younger than that. But we've come a long way.
From the period between the homicide and today, has Mr. Bernard come on the radar in this case?
I believe that there was always a suspicion. Matter of fact, I'm certain of that from speaking to the initial investigator. There was always a suspicion. But as we all know, a suspicion is not probable cause. So despite the fact that no one really ever forgot about this case, we just didn't have the evidence. Now we have the evidence.
And not to put a dollar, I always hate asking these questions, not to put a dollar amount on it, but what did it cost to have this testing done?
It was in the thousands, but it wasn't. It was under 10,000. Money well spent. And I look forward to spending that money again and again and again if we find the right case. Thank you.
I don't know if any,
Oh,
I don't know
good.
if any of the family would like to make any comments or speak.
I will allow you to speak to them if they would like to speak to you. That's up to them, and they are here, and I'm so pleased that they came. This was, put together quickly, and I know that their father would love to be here also, and just very, they haven't forgotten about their sister, their daughter, and I think that speaks volumes, and I think it speaks volumes of the closure that we now can give this loving family.
Excuse me, John. This question is probably for you and the chief, but there are, as you have alluded to, there are other cases, especially in Reading, which probably there are, even if it's 5 a year, for the last 20-some years, there's probably 50 unsolved cases. My question is, is there anyone investigating those cases?
Well, so I think the first, yes, and we're trying to do that. But the first, you have to have the first element. You have to have that forensic evidence, blood. A lot of our cases in the city are gun violence. There's not a trail of DNA in many of those cases. The cases that I have seen throughout the country that involve DNA are generally, I call, more personal. A personal attack, a hand-to-hand combat where bodily fluids would be exchanged. Much of our violence probably takes place from myself to 20, 30 feet from here. And there's not the trace evidence that is needed is not available. So we're looking for those cases, believe me. And we've actually talked to the chiefs throughout Berks County, asking them if they have a case. We are ready to look at cold cases throughout the county. I hate to say this, but we haven't found a lot yet. But we're looking, and we're going to continue to look. So if there's some bad guys out there who committed a horrific crime years ago, they better start worrying and keep worrying. Thank you.
Will you guys be sending this PowerPoint with the mugshot?
Excuse me?
Will you be sending this PowerPoint with the mugshot?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, just give us your contact and
Thank you.
You get hair back then.